Hello, everyone. We're back.
Welcome to Court Vision from New Roads Media.
Hey, we're back. Court Vision is now in session. I think that's what we say. I don't really remember.
Yikes. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has. But it's always a pleasure to have you gents on the microphone to give your sports opinions. And as you know, because it's Court Vision, this is basketball. So
not football, not volleyball.
Yeah, we'll give everyone a minute to leave who's in the wrong room. Don't worry. You can go find whatever you need.
2 rooms over.
The good news is the NBA season's over.
Finally.
What a rush.
We're on to the playoffs. Starting with everyone's favorite gimmick, the play-in tournament. Before we go into the details of which league we're starting with, this if they just did it the top 8 like they used to, you wouldn't have 2 below 500 teams out west on top of the million below 500 teams on the east. It would have been a nice cutoff for the West.
And honestly, here's the argument. Here's the argument for the play-in that makes your argument make even more sense, Gilroy. So you can't even really justify it. Over in the East, in the play-in, we have a smorgasbord of catastrophe here, as we have two matchups, and in each matchup you will find 2 teams. One has the Bulls, one has the Hawks, who are the only 2 teams in the entire pool of 20 who are bottom 10 in the league in both offensive rating and defensive rating. And their opponents, Orlando and Miami, are the only 2 teams in the entire field who are in the bottom 10 in the league in points. So these 2 matchups feature a team that can't fundamentally do the one thing you need to win versus a team that's not good at anything. And we get that twice. This is so dumb. I'm here for it. I'm going to watch every minute of it because we all have a problem for doing this. But you're absolutely right, Gilroy. We have to find a better system than this, because this is just an exercise in who gets to get swept by the Cavs and who gets to get swept by the Celtics. This is insane.
My question is this. So unless I'm missing something here, if Orlando doesn't make it, does that mean a whole division didn't make the playoffs technically?
You would need Orlando or Miami. You would need Orlando and Miami to be the 2 eliminated teams here.
Sorry, I meant division winner. So right, because technically Orlando won the division.
Oh, but I get it. You're saying yes, as the 7 seed, they're the division winner. Yes,
which is so weird to me that like you can win the division and you're not even like. I mean, I get it that they don't. This is what I just hate this system. I just do. I don't like. I get it that you don't want to have. You want to have the best teams in it, and that's why they kind of changed it. But at the same time, you added in 4 extra spots, 2 on each side of bad teams going to make it in, right? Like these are lottery teams that are now making it in because of this ridiculousness. And, Orlando being the 7th seed, but a division winner, which is fine. I'm fine with you not having the division winners automatically get top 4. I can understand that, especially when you have a bad division like this where they're all below 500. So I get it, but just if they just cut it off, had Orlando and Atlanta, I don't know. I just don't like the system. I guess Miami a few years ago was the only benefit, right? Didn't they go through the play-in tournament?
Yeah, and it does seem, and listen, I'm going to shock you when we get to our picks. I have a couple of play-ins making moves this year. But I mean, the easiest argument against what you just said there, Gilroy, is consider March Madness, right? How many teams win their regular season conference, trophy and then get bounced in their conference tournament, right? In a way, Orlando, Atlanta, and Miami, featuring the Bulls as themselves, are basically playing a Southeast division tournament here to figure out who's going to make the playoffs. So, in a sense, listen, college goes through this. You can go, 27-5 in the in the WAC and then miss March Madness, right? So I mean, it happens that divisions can prove meaningless relative to the playoff seedings. So I'm not too mad about it, and I definitely think Kevin, colleague Kevin Chen of ours, was vehement against the divisions meaning something for a long, long time, and he's right in that sense. Watching the Magic have home field advantage against the Bucks, if the division winners got the 1 through 3 seed, would have been one of the most outrageous things on the planet. So I see why.
And I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. I agree that needed to be solved. And I'm sorry for cutting you off there.
No worries.
And I really am fine with that. With something needed to be done, but you could have just had them be, where they like the division winner automatically got the eighth seed if they were below 5. If they, were, if the seeding would have knocked them not into it, they automatically got the lowest you could get was 8. But, I get it. I get why they don't want to do that as well.
I do. I will say I do appreciate the NBA not looking at this and being concerned. Statistically, this is hard to do. You need a combination of a really bad division and a really, I don't want to say mediocre, but even in a bad division, someone should rise amongst the others. You need a lot of near 500 division records for this to happen. You need a real series of coincidences to have one of those. I mean, listen, if you're a statistics nerd out there, have fun. Put this in the comments what the number is. Statistically, the odds of 5 teams finishing in the bottom 9 out of 15 is not really. Just put all 15 names in a hat and pick 9 of them. You won't get an entire division that often. So just probability wise, this shouldn't happen that often. So, I appreciate the NBA not looking at this and saying, we have to do something, because this is more improbable than not.
And I will say most of us did not have Orlando falling off this hard, right?
2 thumbs, baby. 2 thumbs.
I mean, the likelihood that they were able to recapture last year's Magic was not high, but I didn't think that they would not be a little bit better than they are this year. I mean,
Orlando and Sacramento both suffering from Julius Randle comes to New York disease. These teams that pop off too quick, play above expectation, get the wins against the good teams that don't really care about the regular season, have this natural regression. We saw the Magic start to do it last year. It continued into this year. We're seeing it with the Kings, right? The only thing I got right from our preseason shows was Mike Brown being the first coach fired. You can see some of these teams sometimes just peak too early. I already look forward to guaranteeing you that the Rockets won't be a top 4 team in the West next year, because they had, their catapult into the stratosphere this year. So this is very common. And now granted, Orlando had a lot of unluckiness with injuries. They still have not figured out that, right? They've done a little better this year, but they still have 8 point guards, 8 centers, and Franz Wagner, right? They still have not quite balanced this lineup the way they want to balance it. The injuries did them no favors. And so, there's a lot of reasons. And that's why ultimately when we make our predictions here in a minute, I think they do manage to get into a series. But no, I think this regression, especially when, look at who's ahead of them. Even on paper, who was Orlando necessarily better than, other than Detroit, who's, you got to consider them the pleasant surprise of the year. You couldn't have had Orlando much higher than 6.
Yeah. Let's talk predictions. Who do you have winning the 9-10 matchup, Miami, Chicago?
I'm gonna lump this all together and get out of Tommy's way, because he hasn't had a whole lot of chance to talk here. I think at the end of the day, we saw Golden State put up just a historical dud last year against Sacramento. We see that whether or not a team cares enough in the play-in does seem to matter. And of these teams, I really feel Chicago actually has, with a young Buzelis, with a young Giddey, it would help them to actually go and get swept by Cleveland just to get the experience. So I think Chicago is going to try a little bit more. I actually think they end up beating the Bulls. They end up beating the Heat and then the Hawks. I have the Magic beating the Hawks. Like I said, I don't think the Magic are that bad of a team. They got a little unlucky. And so I have the Magic beating the Hawks and claiming the 7 seed. I have the Bulls then upsetting the Hawks and taking the 8 seed.
Tommy?
That's actually kind of what I was going to suggest anyway. So
My
Fair
man.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm gonna go for 3 on that one. I also Chicago has. Sorry, Miami doesn't. They blew things up. They traded Jimmy Butler. This team just doesn't seem to care. Yeah, they pulled off in the end and made the 10. Got in.
I think they're just
Do they-
waiting for next year.
Right. I think that they're not interested in beating Chicago. They're probably not gonna try that hard. I mean, they'll try because they're professionals, but you know what I mean. I think Chicago has more hunger, right? Because they've been trying to find an identity of some sort for the past like decade. It feels that this might be their way of maybe we can get that little bit of fire. Like Mago was saying with Giddey and I and just the other pieces they have there. The team it does seem like it might be able to finally be able to find some sort of future. And I think Orlando is just unfortunately, didn't have the best season due to injuries and just regular regression from being on top of such a high that I do think that they will be able to beat Atlanta though. And then, I agree. So let's move out west. Tommy, why don't you start us off? Who you got? Sacramento, Dallas, and then we'll move. Then you can go straight into Memphis and Golden State.
Well, I can tell you off the bat, I have Sacramento over taking that game. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Surprise, surprise.
I think the Anthony Davis Mavericks are a little overhyped when he's on the court. I'm not taking anything away from him, but ever since they traded Luka, this team has been aimless, like a chicken with its head cut off.
I mean, I think the big thing is that they lost Kyrie. If Kyrie was healthy, this would be a very different story.
Oh yeah,
and a very different season for Dallas. What about Golden State and Memphis? Who do you got?
This is a tougher one because history would suggest that this is going to be another bad play-in for the Warriors, but I kind of like them in this matchup.
I mean, I have
but
my
they
feelings.
they did just they have a history of choking in the play-in, so I'm taking everything with a grain of salt, but I'd like to say that the Warriors take this one, take the 7 seed. Memphis bumps down to the next game.
So who do you have?
And I have Sacramento beating Memphis.
So you have Sacramento beating out Memphis as well. Do you
Yes.
think a lot of that has to do with the change of coaching and not having, having an inexperienced, relatively inexperienced interim head coach in the situation? Is that
absolutely.
That's a pretty good reasoning, I think.
I also just think that Sacramento has, at least going into end of the season, has been playing a little better. Can't count out DeMar DeRozan and all them there. So,
it's understandable. Before we get into you, Mongo, I'm going to give mine. I think also Sacramento's going to beat Dallas. I also have Golden State beating Memphis, and my reasoning is that Jimmy Butler seems to thrive in the play-in. I think that even though historically the Golden State Warriors have struggled when they've been in it, I think Jimmy Butler changes that, right? Because and just the fact that they have Steve Kerr as their coach. I will differ, and I have Memphis beating Sacramento. I think that the talent is just too good in Memphis. I'm not gonna sit here and say that this team is gonna win the whole thing. I don't think that's gonna happen. I do think this team is still a team that there was a reason they were in the top 4, right, for a while, and I think that they can still piece that together. I think that the coaching firing was better timed than maybe someone else's coaching fired that we'll talk about in a little bit. And I think this timing was better for their firing of their coach, and I think it actually has worked. Ja does seem to be doing better, and the team as overall seems to be doing better. Yeah, I know they ended up with the 8th seed, but the West was so tough. We like this has been one of the toughest Wests we've seen in
that West was going to go any number of ways with how close it was.
So I have Memphis and Golden State ultimately advancing into the actual playoffs. Mongo.
Yeah, so I gave you that stat before about Atlanta and Chicago being just overtly collectively terrible. You need to add to that, those are 2 of only 3 teams in the play-in or playoff completely who actually have a negative net rating for the season. And the third one is Dallas. Dallas is the only team in the West with a negative net rating for the year, by the way. That's not recent. So that means even those 24 games with Luka, they weren't lighting the world on fire. I mean, this was you can't be that good in 24 games and end up with a negative rating for the year. So, I mean, this was a team with problems to begin with. They're 8 games under 500 since the Luka trade. So they're a team that got in here solely on the fact that they were 14-10 before they started to break it down. Next year they can truly begin the direction they want to go in. So, which is all to say they're basically here by accident. So I have Sacramento beating them fairly handedly. For Memphis Golden State, I think a couple things at play here. First of all, Golden State is the crafty veteran of this thing by this point. You don't have to know a lot to know that Houston is really kind of outkicking its coverage right now. Oklahoma City is a terrifying team. You want to do everything you can to be the 7 over the 8 this year, and I think that's going to matter. We've seen Golden State kind of not care in years they know they're not that good. In a wide open West this year, they're going to try everything they can. In the meantime, you have Memphis. Listen, big team, good team, scary team. Ja's great. But second overall in the league in personal fouls, like committing personal fouls, and 3rd in the league in turnovers. Add in the home cooking, in Golden State, add in the celebrity cooking of the playoffs, right? Curry and Butler are going to get everything, and so, that's going to – I think it's going to get ugly fast. I think it's actually going to be pretty easy for the Warriors. Because the Grizzlies' one main advantage is they're top 5 in the league in rebounding. Guess what? So are the Warriors. They're right there with them. So the Grizzlies don't have their advantage, and then their disadvantages are crippling against a veteran team. So I think the Warriors take the 7 pretty easily, but then take that same exact story about the Grizzlies being big, being nasty, and I think they can control Sabonis enough to beat the Kings. So I'm going to keep the West chalk, which is all to say that, and I'm going to put the Warriors at 7 and the Grizzlies at 8.
That's what, makes sense to me. So,
Yeah.
All right, let's, I wonder if I can click things on here. I don't think I can. Nope. Okay. I was hopeful this was like an actual bracket where I can click things.
That'd be nice.
That would have been nice. Oh, well, didn't prep enough. Mostly because we had other issues. Anyway, so now what do you want to do? Do you want to continue? Do you want to do, I think the West we should save just because the West is.
Sounds good.
Moving over to the East. So I have Orlando as the 7. So they would be playing Boston. And I have Chicago as the 8th. So they would be playing Cleveland. And I think so do you, right?
Can I save some time here? Does anyone not have Cavs in 4, Celtics in 4, regardless of what Earthlings are playing against them?
No. That was what I was getting at here.
I don't think we need to spend a lot of time here. Listen, I think, like I said, I think it's good for Chicago. I think it's good for Orlando to go out there. I think Cleveland has some faults. I've talked about it for years. I don't think they're built as a completely deep team. I think they're a little too top heavy, and I do not trust Spider in a critical spot. But with all that being said, those 2 teams are significantly better, deeper. Everything about them advantage those 2 teams.
Unless the crippling injury happens.
Right, we always put that disclaimer on every time we do any of these shows. But give me Boston 4-0, give me Cleveland 4-0. I'm not even going to humor you with the gentleman's sweep here.
That's fair. Tommy, do you have a gentleman's sweep in here?
Do you really think I have a gentleman's sweep here? These teams are getting cooked. No matter which team, they're getting cooked.
I mean, I know you have your eternal hatred for. I don't know. I can't even make up a thing here. Let's talk Indiana, Milwaukee. I actually have, surprise, Milwaukee winning. I do think it goes the distance. And what I always forget, the NBA is 7 no matter what, right? I'm thinking baseball.
We're 7 all
Yeah.
around.
So, so Milwaukee in 5. I think that that's just going to happen. I think that the Indiana's not quite there yet. And I think it's hard to deal with Giannis. I mean, and Doc Rivers is a very good coach, right? Like I know everyone makes fun of him for being, the 3-1 lead blown leads or whatever that he has. But he is a good coach, right? Like, and I think he's going to have them well prepared. I think that I do think that ultimately that is what's going to matter, and that is what's going to get them over the hump in Game 5.
Nice.
7.
Go ahead, Tommy.
I have a couple takes here because if it'll either be Bucks in 5, but if it goes a further stretch, I have Indy in 7.
I actually don't mind that take.
Because I see a real possibility here that if it goes the distance, someone is going to get gassed by the end.
Or injured or punched or suspended. Remember, these are two of the chippiest teams in the league, and the Pacers literally have depth designed just to fight people. The longer this thing goes, the more the mental game does favor the Pacers. I'll give you that, Tommy.
Because I mean, the Bucks have a couple old timers on their team.
That's putting it gently.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. I'll tell you, this is a great 4-5 matchup because these are two very, very similar teams. Pacers are 4 and Bucks are 6 in turnovers. These are both top 8 teams in three-point percentage. These are both bottom 8 teams in rebounding. They're actually 29 and 30 in offensive rebounding collectively, one and then the other right next to each other. So they're very similar. The one thing I will say is Milwaukee has a huge free throw percentage advantage. Not free throw percentage, free throws taken advantage. So the refs could control this series. If the Bucks win this one easily, I think we're going to be looking at some controversy, in the headlines. But with all that being said, you got to take a look at the fact that the Pacers started this year 10 and 15, which means do the math there. They finished the year 40 and 17. That comes out to about a 58-59 win season if they had kept that going. People are talking about how hot the Clippers are, how hot some other teams are. 40 and 17 is a dumb number, and it would have put them right behind the 2 seed. So this is not really a 4-5 so much as it is like a 2-5, 2-4. And so I'm going to actually take the Pacers in 6 here.
Fair enough. Let's go New York, Detroit. Let's start with Tommy.
This one's a little tough. I'm not going to lie. But I'm giving it to the Knicks in 6.
Interesting.
But I don't think they're going to come out of this unscathed.
I will say this. I think ultimately the Knicks do come out on top. I think it's going to not be easy. Yes, I know Detroit did win the regular season matchups 3-1, but the last game I don't necessarily think the Knicks put in full effort. I could be wrong, but that's just how I felt. I feel like the Knicks were kind of trying to see if they could get the 4 seed towards the end, and then things didn't. Then it just felt they ended up falling into the 3 seed, which is fine in a way. But I think that they felt better facing Milwaukee than they did Detroit, but they're fine with Detroit. I don't think it really mattered either way. And maybe that's just because I'm reading too much on the old internet. I do think the Knicks win. I think the Knicks win in 6. I think that Detroit is going to get game 1 is the thing. And that's going to, and it might get in the Knicks' head a little bit because of that. But I just think the Knicks are going to be a little bit too unprepared. Ultimately, though, if the Knicks just are flat in this playoffs, I could see major changes coming to this organization because it was ultimately, even though, yes, the Knicks had one more win than last year, it still felt like a disappointing season. And I don't know. There's a lot of good coaches available. It might be time to move on from Tibbs. I know that that seems crazy, and if Kevin was here, he'd be calling me names.
Kevin will call you names for anything.
Yeah, I think if the Knicks do not have a strong playoff performance, it could be the end of Tibbs' time in New York.
I will go one step further. If this even gets to game 7, I would fire everybody. I would fire the coach. I would fire the entire front office. I would fire the guy who mic checks Harry Styles when he plays concerts there in the offseason. I would fire the guy who puts down the ice when the Rangers are in town. I would fire everybody and their best friend.
I'd even fire Billy Joel if he was still.
I'd fire them all. It should be
there.
The room should be empty the next day if Detroit wins the thing, let alone if it's even competitive. Listen, I love what Detroit did. Great stuff, but we see this all the time where a team takes advantage of the fact that not everybody is engaged in the regular season. Detroit had so much to prove coming off their fiasco last year with the big payment, to Monty Williams that ended up going nowhere. And they've had so many top 10 picks the last 5, 6, 7 years, and everyone's been waiting on them. They had a reason to go out and dominate the regular season. Most teams don't. And they still only got to the 6. It's not like they went out and won 70 games. Right. They went out there, played 110%, and they're still looking up at 5 teams. So this team is not ready to do any damage in the playoffs. I'm sorry. I'll pull a Kevin here and break it down game by game. If there's any chance, it's the game back home. It would be game 3. So at most, I'm going to let this thing get to 5. The Knicks have a way of messing up games to a point where I'll say 5. A sweep would be way more predictable to me than 6. 6 to me is outrageous if it even gets that far. And because, guys, here's your stat. On top of the experience factor, the Pistons 9th in the league in turnovers, and add in those nerves of the playoffs, that number is going to go up. Knicks 4th in the league in field goal percentage. They don't miss many opportunities. So if the Pistons are turning the ball over and the Knicks are cashing in on that, you don't have to do a whole lot of math here to see that this should be pretty easy for the Knicks.
That's fair. So the way that would work out, you have Knicks. I guess all 3 of us have Knicks Boston, right? That's what it would be. Correct. And then me being the only one who has Milwaukee, Cleveland, and then you 2 having Indiana, Cleveland. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Let's go let's go the Cleveland matchup. I think that this is where Cleveland hits a wall. I don't know. I'm not confident in them. They seem to struggle in the playoffs in the past. Yes, they have a new coach, so maybe that will change things up. But the team is ultimately still the same players, right? For the most part. And whether it's, and I have them facing Milwaukee. So I think Milwaukee can come out on top in that series. Again, they have a very good coach, and they have Giannis, who should be in MVP conversations, but for whatever reason hasn't been the past couple of years. I understand Joker's been phenomenal, and Joel Embiid was good, and this year SGA and Joker have been having ridiculous years, and whoever ends up winning the MVP between the two is it's really, you can't be too upset. But that's not the point. The point is, I think that I just think that the overall Milwaukee would give them trouble. I do think, though, it would go 6 games. I don't think it would go 7. I think that Cleveland that's just my feelings on Cleveland. I'm not confident in them, and maybe I'm in the minority.
In that matchup, I think that Cleveland comes out strong first 2, maybe 3 games, but I think if they fizzle out, and Milwaukee would take over that series.
Yeah, it's funny, Corey. I'm with you just with the other team. I have the Pacers in 6. I think the Pacers proved last year, they're not afraid to cause chaos in the playoffs. They're not afraid of anyone in the playoffs. And
they will hit you. They will actually hit you.
Right. I have them over the Bucks for that same Central Division bad blood. I'm with you on everything. The one thing I'll say real quick, just before we get reamed out in the comments here, Dan Devine, or whoever's doing the rating for Yahoo Sports Basketball these days, put out what his ballots look like for all the end-of-year voting. He has Giannis 3rd. So I want to clarify, Kilroy's statement there is that the 1st and 2nd guy are light years ahead of 3rd. Not that Giannis is not appearing on ballots. A lot of people have him 3 through 5. He's going to get votes. Don't get This year we have SGA, Joker, Field. I want to just make that perfectly clear of what we're saying.
And Tommy, I know you touched on Milwaukee, Cleveland, but what about Indiana, Cleveland?
I feel roughly the same. I actually have Pacers in 5.
So none of us have Cleveland advancing. Boy,
No.
Cleveland fans are going to be mad with us.
Let them be.
Yeah, comment that.
Honestly,
Comment
they've
down
kinda
below.
been
Give us
overrated
your
this year,
anger
in
in
my
the
opinion.
comments, Cleveland fans.
Listen, I'm just going to copy and paste your all playing for the right to lose to Boston over and over, but feel free to give me as much crap as you want.
Let's move to New York, Boston. Tommy, who you got?
I know I'm wildly off base here. It's not going to happen. But I got the New York Knicks in 7 games. I've got some kind of magic happening that like
I'm glad you
they
do.
win in 7 games. It's going to be impossible. But if it goes 7 games, it's going to the Knicks. I don't know why. I don't know how. I have this like gut feeling.
You know what the problem is? We
I
spent
feel like the Celtics, because they are probably championship drunk a bit, are going to underestimate the Knicks a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that will happen.
Just a little, just enough, you know?
We spent so
I
much
know
of our
it's wishful
$0
thinking.
budget on that amazing opening credit sequence. We forgot to make one of those please stand by technical difficulties sequence, cards, because that absolutely broke us. Tommy, I will say this is why we bring you to New Jersey once a year, moxie that you're bringing to the table right there. I do think if anyone beats Boston, we look back and it was the Knicks. I will say, I think this is Boston's best chance to mess up. I think Boston knows that, and I think Boston is going to take this one more seriously than the others, to your point about the hangover, which is why I don't think the Celtics let this get to 7. I don't think they want to leave anything to chance. I think, and I know Kevin would also hate this, I think they take it on Madison Square Gardens, on the Knicks turf, and I'm going to go Celtics in 6 here.
I will agree that if it goes to 7 games, the Knicks will win.
Okay.
If it is less than 7 games, it's the Celtics. That's all I'll say.
Yes. I fully admit I have a very, very unrealistic take here. But
So here's the thing.
If it's 7 games, the only team that I think beats the Celtics in 7 games is the Knicks in this, that we have left.
I think the Knicks do have an actual chance. Like, I think that their roster is good enough to beat the Celtics. I think my main concern is the fact that they don't have much depth at center. If Mitchell Robinson gets either in foul trouble or gets a nagging injury or isn't able to play enough minutes because of his injuries or whatever, it's going to be very difficult for the Knicks. The Knicks are a very, very different team with him and without him. And I think that if the Knicks are going to win the series, they need Mitchell Robinson to play every game. And if he's not able to do that, the Knicks don't stand a chance in the series. But if Mitchell Robinson is on the court playing 20 plus minutes, the Knicks have a very good chance. And that leads me to the thing of the Knicks need to figure that out this offseason. That they need to figure out their defense. That if their center issues, right? Like Cat is very
right. That's been going on for a while.
And I love Mitchell Robinson, but his health has always been a concern, and it continued into this season. You lost Isaiah Hartenstein, who would have been great right now if the Knicks still had IR and Mitchell Robinson. I think the Knicks would have been the number 2 or even the number 1 seed in the East. I think the fact that they lost Mitchell Robinson for most of the season, that it was just the Knicks were put in a bad position. And it's even shown. If you look at I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm sorry. I'm going to say look at their defensive stats. But if you look at the defensive stats with him on the court versus him off the court, they are significantly better.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
All right. So I got Milwaukee, Boston. Boston wins that.
Oh yeah.
I have Indy, Boston. Boston wins that. Give me Celtics in 5 there.
Yeah, sure. 5 minutes. I'll say, you know what? No, they're going to sweep the Bucks.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Listen, I want to go back one step real quick. I know we're running long for time, but this will be the last one I really give a lot of detail on in the East. If you are out there, if you're a gambler, and as always, I say bet responsibly, but if you're a gambler and you don't plan on betting on the Celtics to win it all, bet on the Knicks in that second series, because if the Celtics get past the Knicks, it's over. I'm just telling you right now, I'm going Celtics in 5 the rest of the way we talk about them.
Yep. So Celtics and championship from me and Mongo. Tommy?
Well, I guess I'm where it gets interesting because I didn't have the Celtics winning.
All right.
That's right. He did say he had the Knicks.
That would put the Pacers and the Knicks against each other.
Kevin's gonna have a heart attack.
That would kill Kevin.
Guys, I think this is where the Knicks run out because that 7-game series.
God, you're really gonna put Kevin in the early grave.
Yes.
What a pro Kevin.
Pacers in 6.
All right.
See, now, if you really want to put Kevin in a grave, you would have said Pacers in 4.
No, I'm not that crazy.
Pacers in 6 is an all too familiar feeling for a '90s Knicks fan. Kevin would have been particularly annihilated by that one, even more than 4, I think.
My thinking here is that if the Knicks win in 7 games, they're gonna be gassed. They're gonna be feeling it, and they're gonna come out strong in that early part of the Knicks Pacers series. But ultimately, the Pacers would take it.
That's fair.
This sounds weird, but the Knicks' best path to the finals would be chalk. Getting Cleveland and Detroit, 2 of the teams that are a little, you can kind of force into a little bit of sloppier play. Is what you want to do.
Knicks are winning that series.
Yeah,
I don't think Cleveland. I know Cleveland swept the Knicks in the regular season, but I don't think that Cleveland is better than the Knicks. I know that that obviously they were.
Right, we can count. We get it, guys.
But
no, it's just unique because like my Western bracket completely breaks down and somebody makes the finals by accident. Spoiler. Usually you need some help if you want the best path to the finals. The Knicks here actually benefit, other than Boston losing in the first round, the Knicks actually benefit from chalk in the first and third round here, which is very unique.
Yeah. All right, let's move out west. Let's start with OKC versus Memphis. That's who I think all of us have.
Yeah.
I think I think it goes set. I do think say like Tommy 4. I do think it's a sweep. I think that OKC is hungry. I think Memphis is still going to be stumbling.
No shot Memphis wins a single game. No shot.
Mongo.
I'm actually between Memphis's size, Memphis's chippiness, and Ja's ability to accidentally drop a 55 in one of these things. I will actually go the gentleman's sweep here. I don't. 4 wouldn't surprise. Again, if you told me I have to pick 4 or 6, I'm taking 4. But I think Memphis has enough to play for in the sense that they want to send one final message. Ja wants to throw one more crossbow or harpoon or whatever threat he's using nowadays. And I think they'll find a way to win one. But give me the Thunder in 5 there.
Sorry, throwing his haters' words.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. That's right.
He's throwing the holy hand grenade.
Houston, Golden State. I have Golden State winning this. I think Houston is just not there yet. I know record-wise they are. I don't think they are actually there yet. I have Golden State winning in 6.
Well, I might as well piggyback. Sorry, Tommy. I think we're going to be...
No, I'm with you guys, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it's that Jimmy Butler factor.
Yeah, I actually, so here's the thing. Houston, I mean, you try and get those veterans at the start of the season for this reason, but Dillon Brooks, 9-14 all time in the playoffs, and Steven Adams since 2016 eliminated in the first round 4 times and only moved to the second round once. I mean, what have you done for me lately, right? These are not the veterans you necessarily can rely on. This is the most time-tested team in the league against just a team that did a pretty awful job of surrounding their young guys with veterans who could, grit out wins in the playoffs. Again, I'd go 5 before I went 7, but I'll lock it in with Kilroy and say Warriors in 6.
I'm at 5.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind that. I think Houston learns the hard way here.
Let's go 3-6 Lakers, Minnesota. I have the Lakers taking it. Rudy Gobert does struggle against the small ball. Lakers have a good roster for that. I say Lakers win in 6.
I actually go the other way. He struggles against the small ball, but he struggles against small ball that plays big. The Lakers are 24th and 26 in blocks and rebounds in the league. And it's not like Minnesota, in years past, Minnesota has been right with Cat. We are big. If you can beat us, you can beat us. They're only 15th in the league in rebounds and blocks this year. So they've been doing it in other ways. So they're a deeper team than they've been. The Lakers are going to struggle with anything Gobert can create. We know that this Minnesota team is not afraid. And I'm going to use this narrative a couple times. Sorry in advance. We saw Minnesota sweep Kevin Durant last year in the playoffs. They're not afraid of LeBron James. They're not going to be afraid of stars. And so I'm going to take Minnesota in 6 here.
Okay, I understand that. That makes sense. Tommy?
Call me a crazy Laker fan. I'm going Lakers in 4.
Whoa!
But
Okay.
they're going to be 4 super close games. They're not going to be some easy one games. These are going to be super. Like I'm thinking an overtime at least in one of these games.
That's fair. And then we got Denver Clippers. I'm going to go Clippers in 5. I think as long as this is the big caveat here, as long as Kawhi stays healthy. But also James Harden is a hell of a player. I know.
Don't remind me about
we were mad about him with his constant jumping of teams. He's not really jumping teams. It's just I think his issues in Brooklyn were clearly not necessarily him, and same with the Sixers. If we've learned anything, I think that him being judged off of those teams is not necessary. He didn't help the situation, but he certainly wasn't the cause of it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. But I tell you what, the bottom line for the Clippers is say what you want. They're old. The Nuggets are 19th in the league in age, and that's with some rookies just filling out the roster that the GM wanted them to play. Right, the GM wanted them to play more, which was part of the problem. So you have some young guys just messing up that number. They're probably closer to 25th or 26th, but the Clippers are dead last. Meanwhile, the Nuggets are 9th in pace of play on average. The Clippers are 22nd. So the Nuggets find a rare matchup here where they're actually the younger, faster team, which I think is not only would that help them anyway, but especially, without really any coaching right now, they're a team that would actually benefit from having to go out there and having to scramble a little bit, right? Top 3rd in the league in pace, number 1 in the league in field goal percentage, and in the top 5 in rebounds. So not only does that negate Zubac and his wild 17, 18 rebound games he has every now and then, but it also means they can clean up their own messes when they're not getting the best shot. So I think Denver, look at, the Clipper fans are out there probably right now listening to me going, well, what about, they have Leonard, a time-tested MVP in the championship. Well, Jokic says, hold my beer, right? Harden's a guy who can shoot himself in or out of any playoff game. Murray says, hold my beer, right? Just going right down the line, Denver matches really, really well against the Clippers. This is just a really unfortunate one for the Clippers. I'm going to take the Nuggets in 6 here.
Tommy?
This one's tough because there's a lot of pros on both sides and a lot of cons to both sides. I think, and this hinges upon a healthy Kawhi. Clippers in 7.
Okay. All right. So we have OKC versus Golden State for me, and LA. I have a matchup.
No, you don't. That is incorrect. It doesn't reseed.
Oh, they don't receive.
That's what I had to look up before when I knew I was picking upsets. They're going to play for you guys. They're going to play you're going to have Thunder Clippers. For me, I'm going to have Thunder Nuggets.
Okay. All right.
Which means, yes, I am getting Warriors Wolves, which is the matchup we all want. Sorry, everybody.
I'll have the crab juice.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I really botched. That's why I Googled it. I was like, there's no way this could be right.
All right. OKC versus Clippers. I'm giving it to OKC. I don't know, 5-6 games. I don't really care. I just think that the youth of OKC is just going to overwhelm. Similarly to what Mago was just talking about with Denver over the Clippers, I think OKC's youth is just better. It's going to just steamroll the Clippers. It will be fun to watch. I think it will be a fun series. But I do think ultimately OKC wins. And then my Lakers Warriors. Now I just
Yeah, right. Changes things that the Warriors are going on through the bottom part of the bracket instead of having to move up.
I don't know. I don't really care. Can both teams lose?
That's how I feel.
Man, whatever. OKC to the finals. I don't care who they're playing.
All right, fair enough. But I hate to tell you, I got Denver taking out the Thunder here. I actually have Denver going to the Western Conference Finals.
If it's Denver versus OKC, I can see Denver winning. But if it's OKC versus Clippers, I think the Thunder win.
I do think the Thunder would beat the Clippers, but I think it's interesting because I think mainly Zubac, but I think the Clippers play a physical enough game that they would give the Thunder trouble. But I think the way to beat the Thunder, Jokic's ability to stretch the floor is going to be a little bit of a nightmare for the Thunder. And I also think by getting rid of Mike Malone and hopefully I know we all shrink our lineup. Excuse me, guys, we all shrink our rotation in the playoffs. But you have those young guys on the bench that can just kind of run with the young guys of the Thunder's bench, meaning those couple minutes in the second or third quarter where the stars are resting, you shouldn't see the Thunder literally take off on the Nuggets. They should be able to keep it roughly fair, at which point you're just looking at the Nuggets starting five against the Thunder starting five. And, and I love that Nuggets starting five. I always have. I always will. I think they can compete. So I'm gonna take the Nuggets in 7. I would never not take Joker in a 7th game. So I'll take the Nuggets in 7 there.
We got between Golden State and Minnesota.
Oh, and now I'm left with Golden State and Minnesota. Yeah. This one is, this is absolutely wild. We saw it last year with SGA, right? And Halliburton to some extent. They're kind of coming out party. Anthony Edwards too. I think Halliburton continues that this year. I think Edwards continues that this year. I think Anthony Edwards has a big series there. And I'll take Minnesota in 6. So I'm now at a Nuggets-Wolves Western Conference Finals.
And Tommy, who do you got in your matchups?
Gee, I can hear the enthusiasm in your voice over there. So I believe I had Thunder and Clippers. This is where I've got the health issues catching up to the Clippers. And I have the Thunder winning in 6.
And who do you have?
I have Lakers Warriors.
Yeah, the Warriors really mess things up here, don't they?
They do.
Give it to the Warriors in 7. Doesn't
Whatever,
really matter.
sure. All right, who do you
Thunder Warriors, Thunder in 5.
Mongo, who do you have winning Denver versus Minnesota?
In every way, shape, and form, I want to take the Nuggets here. They're the better team. They're the kind of team that we said Gobert traditionally doesn't do well with. And yet the Timberwolves swept the regular season series. So the question really becomes, do I believe in that or not? Because the 4 games they played were something like November, January, March, and April. It wasn't like they played early in the year or anything of that nature. The Nuggets did have injuries for basically 3 out of those 4, and I'm going to bank on that. And as chaotic as it is right now in Denver, I'm going to take Denver in 7 here. I'm going to have the Nuggets going to the finals.
So you got Nuggets, Celtics. I got Thunder, Celtics. Tommy, you have Thunder,
I have the
Thunder
beating.
Knicks.
I had the Thunder beating who's it? The Warriors. Did I say
Sorry.
what in 6?
Sorry, Pacers. You have Pacers.
So Thunder. Pacers.
Oh, no one wants that.
The NBA might call for a redo.
I'm a small market guy. You know that.
So was the NBA in 1971, and how did that work out for him, Tommy?
First off, one of the biggest BSs. San Antonio is like one of the top TV. Anyway, we're gonna ignore that. San Antonio is not as small market as people make it out to be. We'll ignore that.
But Pacers Thunder, man,
no one wants.
I got Thunder in 5.
I have Celtics in 5. I said it all along. Once the Celtics get
it's Celtics Thunder. I have Celtics winning. Celtics in 5. They have the champion pedigree. The team is really well built. Injuries are the only thing that can derail any team, really, right? But that's really the thing that will derail the Celtics is if there's major injury. And I don't even mean Kristaps Porzingis. I mean to Tatum or Brown or even Al Horford, right? I think Horford is one of the best vets in. I'm gonna say this, and I'll get my hate or whatever. I think he's one of the best vets in NBA history.
A lot depends on how you're defining vet. I mean, are we talking about guys who have played more than 15 seasons? Because then, yeah, he's probably in the top 20.
Yeah.
I mean, what a stupid. The comment's not wrong. It's just a bizarre. I mean, he's probably one of the 5 best players on earth named Al Horford. I mean, what a bizarre comment. Do you mean?
I just mean like impactful vets.
Now, I'm. You know what? I'll steal it from you, Kilroy, because I'm tempted to change. I'll stick with my vote, but if I get close enough that Minnesota gets to the finals, I might change my vote here because I believe that there's actually a secret owner of the NBA. Just like how the WWE is owned by the McMahons, I believe that the NBA is actually owned by John Hammond from Jurassic Park, because nothing seems truer than the idea that life finds a way in the NBA. And what would be better in the year where Kevin Durant was the biggest, just absolute fail of the year than getting Mike Conley versus Al Horford, the 2 guys behind him in the 2007 draft, playing for one more shot at glory in the finals. If that happens, I'm telling you right now, it's John Hammond's doing.
I actually, you know what?
Spare no expense.
I love that. You know what? Scrap everything else I said. That's what was going to happen.
Celtics, let's do it.
Real quick to wrap things up because, well, we always have to bring back in big markets, and you think it was going to be the Knicks, but no. I'm going to say something crazy.
Oh boy,
and this might put a smile on Kevin's face.
Oh boy,
and as we all know, that's very difficult to do. I think the Lakers need to move on from LeBron. I think the team is better without him, and that they need to focus on Luka.
Well, I think LeBron needs to retire. So
I'm not saying that LeBron can't play anymore. I don't mean that, but I'm just saying I think the team.
He had his victory lap. Bye bye.
I think that Luka and Bron which is why I really don't actually like them going as far as I do. I will take it back. Minnesota wins that. And then I have Minnesota versus OKC in the finals, Western Conference Finals.
I will say this. If you are a Laker fan out there and you like Kilroy's take, or if you're Kilroy and you like Kilroy's take, you really need the Lakers to either win the whole thing or get absolutely annihilated by the Wolves, right? If LeBron gets close, if they get to like game 7 against the Thunder, you know the Lakers are immediately thinking, we're basically there, let's just run it back. And I'm with you, Kilroy. I think there are better options out there than simply running it back. So if you are somebody who believes they do not have the winning formula right now, either hope they accidentally win one and LeBron rides off into the sunset, or hope they realize how truly far away they are. Because if they get far, but not all the way, unfortunately, Kilroy, whether or not you are right, only time will tell. But I think they'll be less inclined to do what you want to do there if they have a deep but not fully successful run.
You know what? I'll say this. I want it to happen, but I'm going to add another caveat that will make Kevin's frown. He gets traded to the Knicks.
Oh, that would make him frown. He might not watch, knowing that it'll probably only be for a year. He might not watch the league. Like we might just have to tell him what's happening.
All right. Anything else you guys want
No,
to add?
he's gonna make a LeBron toad hat.
No, I
don't. Completely.
If LeBron were to come to the Knicks and the Knicks win a championship with LeBron, would that change Kevin's tune about LeBron?
No, I don't think. I really do think he is so vehement that he would actually put an asterisk on it. I think he would literally.
Would he become a Pacers fan?
I think he would just take a year off from the NBA. I think he would just try to pretend. He would try to black it out of his memory for all time.
No, but which would he rather do? Would he rather be a Pacers fan or LeBron join the Knicks. Those are his only two options.
I mean, I think the obvious third option of not I mean, it's not jump off a cliff. It's simply not turn on ESPN on a Sunday.
We know Kevin.
He
will make it. He will make it.
There's a pretty easy third option here. But with all that being said, I think he would watch the Knicks knowing full well, we all know full well that he'd be watching, looking to say, I told you it was a bad idea every time they're down like 3 to the Bulls 6 minutes into a game. Like he's going to actively be just hating on LeBron and wanting them to fail. So I think that technically doesn't answer your question because it's still not being a fan of the LeBron Knicks. He'd stay with them, but purposely so that he could be like Randy Quaid in Major League, right? Just yelling from the bleachers. That would effectively be his role as a Knick fan. He would be there just to heckle.
Fair enough. Tommy, anything spicy you want to add in? Any San Antonio Spurs news that you want to throw our way before we wrap things up?
Well, first, I do want to give one more take about the finals. If it's Thunder Celtics, like you guys said, or Thunder Nuggets, either way, if the Celtics make it to the finals, I have them winning pretty handily. No doubt about that. Also, congrats to the Spurs for getting 34 wins this year. We're moving on up. Big improvement from last year, even without some of our major players.
And that's what you want to do, right? We watched Orlando and Sacramento shoot themselves out of cannons, and what did it do, right? I mean, you could try 200% in any given regular season. You can win a few games by 3 or 4 points here and there. You can be fool's gold, but we're seeing San Antonio with each top 6, top 7, top 8 pick they add get better and better. Now, they eventually have to make a decision on a couple of these guys because they're reaching Detroit status of, we have too many of these guys. But overall, this is what you want. I mean, and this is why the Spurs have been who they are for 27 years, right? Whereas the Kings occasionally make the playoffs and then disappear for another 9 years, right? So, this is definitely what you want to see. And Tommy, I'm with you. Congratulations to them. And also, hey, shout out to Chris Paul doing it way longer than
82 games, year 20. That's
congratulations to CP3. This is
very impressive
for a guy who early in his career was considered injury prone.
Before we go, one more thing. What did I not say in our predictions episode that Stephon Castle is the guy to look at?
You did.
Here he is.
Yeah, you had him for rookie of the year pretty nicely.
Didn't I say Dalton Kennard or whatever the guy at the Lakers got?
No. You did.
Dalton Connect.
That's his name.
Who also managed to play a surprising number of games for a guy who it doesn't make sense that he did. Because that's the thing about it, Tommy. Like, there's those two things still don't compute in my, like, this is what makes sports great. The reason none of us believed you, and the reason that I still don't particularly believe it, is because there's no path where Paul should have played every game and Castle should have put up stats, right? Like Castle's best chance of rookie of the year was Chris Paul was out for the season by Christmas. Like it doesn't make sense, but that's what makes the Spurs such a good franchise. They found a way to balance everyone together. Obviously, they lost a couple guys down the stretch, especially once they kind of gave up on the year. That made it a little bit easier for certain guys to get their minutes. But it's wild that those two stats are hand in hand together. And as a math person, almost bonkers to think that they're even possible to go together.
Fair enough.
It's also crazy that Wemby led the league in blocks, even while being out. That's by a pretty big margin.
Thank you all so much for watching. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment down below who you have going to and then winning the NBA Finals. Take care.